Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahabatihi wa man walah. As we still continue with the theme of Ar-Rahmah, I'd like to talk about Ar-Rahmah bil Hayawanat, having mercy on animals. And I chose to start with that because, having mercy towards each other, it comes to our mind. But many of us, especially that come from a cultural background in the Middle East, animals rarely receive any kind of mercy because we don't see animals except if they are there for food or for hunting. So I'd like to address that. First of all, animals are mentioned in the Quran al-Kareem. And since they are mentioned in the Quran al-Kareem, that means they're significant, they're important in our lives, they're important and honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, we have surahs of the Quran al-Kareem named in the name of animals. The second surah, Surah Al-Baqarah, the cow, Surah Al-Fil. There's many surahs out there. 7 surahs out there that are named by animal names. Surah Al-Nahl. So when you look at Allah Ta'ala choosing these names for these surahs, because the names of the surahs are also God-given names. They were not names that were chosen by Al-Kuttab or the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Everything about the Quran Al-Kareem is absolute and divine. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them. And even without just the naming of the surahs of the Quran Kareem, they're mentioned in the Quran in many verses. Surah Al-An'am, Al-Nahl is mentioned. So this significance name that Allah Ta'ala chose for these surahs means that these animals are unique and important, and they have a place in our faith. In the most religious book that we have, the Quran al-Kareem, they are mentioned there. We tend to forget that. We think that the animals are just there for us to be entertained with them, to eat them, and that's it. But no, on the contrary, the animals at times were used to create victories, to protect prophets, like Al-Ankabut. Al-Ankabut, not just the name of a surah, but also it webbed a web at the opening of the cave to protect the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. All the animals, when Ibrahim alayhi salam was thrown into the fire, all the animals were trying to blow the fire off, turn the fire off, an exception of one animal, Al-Wazaga, that lizard, the white lizard. But other than that, every animal was trying to turn that fire off. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to even name his camel. He named his camel, gave it a name, Al-Qaswa. And he was gentle to his camel. And when one of the Sahaba one time says that the camel of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is getting old, because it's getting slow, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam defended his camel. He said, "Wallahi ma atrat al-Qaswa." Al-Qaswa haven't gotten slow. So imagine the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam defending his camel. So having that kind of rahmah, to the animals is something part of our faith, part of our iman. It's not something just out of gesture. But it's not even something just out of good morale or good character. It's actually more than that. It's religiously required. It's religiously judged. It's religiously based. And Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to recognize that. And he didn't just name his camel Al-Qaswa. He also named one of his Sahaba by the pet that he owned. Abu Huraira, Abdulrahman ibn Sakhr al-Dawsi. His name is Abdulrahman ibn Sakhr al-Dawsi. His name wasn't Abu Huraira. And neither did he have a child that was named Huraira. He didn't have a child named Huraira. But the Rasul ﷺ noticed that Abdurrahman would always walk with a cat in his arm. He would always have a cat with him. So the Rasul ﷺ named him Abahir. And then he became known by Abu Huraira. Abu Huraira. So Abu Huraira got his nickname from the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam identified him by the pet that he kept carrying with him wherever he went. And all of a sudden now, if you ask Muslims across the world, what is the name of Abu Huraira? Many of them know. They do not know that his name is Abdurrahman ibn Sakhr al-Dawsi. They just know him by Abu Huraira. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored Abu Huraira by naming him after the cat. He was named because of the cat, and that was honor for him. So when we talk about our relationship with the animals, it's religiously based. It is not just human kindness. When human kindness happened, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it into a religious reward, and we will get that. And there are many ahadith, subhanAllah, there are many ahadith that speaks volume about having mercy on the animals. In fact, the animal can even be honored because of a status and its ability. We all know that, for example, a dog, if you have a dog and it licks your plate, you have to wash that plate 7 times, one of them with dirt or soil, and another opinion of the scholars, the 8th one is with dirt or soil. But if your dog is a trained hunting dog, مُكَلِّبِينَ تُعَلِّمُونَهُنَّ مِمَّا عَلَّمَكُمُ اللَّهُ فَكُلُوا مِمَّا أَمْسَكْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ, then you don't even need to do that washing 7 times. That dog is honored because of his intellect, to where you no longer need to wash it, even though he'll have his jaws into that animal that he hunted. He'll have his saliva into that animal that he hunted. But because of the knowledge that he possessed, he was given a status of uplifting. So, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to these animals. وَأَوْحَى رَبُّكَ إِلَى النَّحْلِ أَوْحَى رَبُّكَ إِلَى النَّحْلِ. He spoke to it. He revealed to the Nahl on how to live. In these animals are not just they're roaming the world, they're also beings that worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in fact, their worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala supersedes any kind of worship that we have. وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُ. Everything glorifies Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We just don't know what they're saying. We can't comprehend the language. Sulaiman alayhi salam, who was able to talk to the animals, he and his troops were traveling, and then he overheard the ant. قالت نملة يا أيها النمل ادخلوا مساكنكم لا يحطمنكم سليمان وجنوده وهم لا يشعرون. Look at the intelligence of this ant, that it's speaking to its kind. It's like, go and return to your homes. So Sulaiman and his troops do not stop you without them knowing. That ant was so intelligent that it knew who Sulaiman is. It knew that Sulaiman will not harm a living soul, will not march his troops and his armies over even ants. So it said, go back to your homes. So Sulaiman and his troops will not stomp on you without them knowing. So look at the mercy of Sulaiman alayhi salam towards the insects and animals. The insect knew that as long as he understands and knows, he will not stomp on them. But if they're on their way, then they need to move. So from that, we understand that, again, I emphasize, our relationship with creatures out there, animals, insects, mammals, whatever it is a relationship that's defined by protection and care. So every living soul has a right to live peacefully, has a right to live with care, and have to feel at peace. And that's exactly what it is in our faith. And the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam emphasized that. There's so many hadiths. For example, he was passing by. He was traveling with his companions, and they passed by a chicken that's flapping its wings and jumping at a few kids. And that chicken was flapping its wings because those kids had taken its kitties away from it, its babies away from that chicken. And it was living in horror because it's losing its baby. So the Rasul says, "Man faja'a hadihi bi awladiha." Man faja'a hadihi bi awladiha. Who terrorized this chicken? Who terrorized this chicken through its kids, I mean, its babies? So you can notice, and then he said, "Ruddu ilayha her kitties, her kittens, or her babies." To that level, the Rasul ﷺ stopped and noticed the fear in this chicken for losing its babies. He noticed one time there was a lady that was traveling with them, and she was on her camel, and she cursed her camel. The Rasul ﷺ stopped the whole caravan and turned to her, and he said, "Get her down off that camel." We do not travel with one that curses our rides. Can you imagine that? In fact, Imam, Muslim, he wrote a whole chapter of Al-Rahma bil-Hayawanat. Al-Rahma bil-Hayawanat. Can you imagine a whole chapter just to talk about Al-Rahma bil-Hayawanat? So, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam forbid and made it even haram to hit an animal. And he recognized hitting as an animal as a major sin. Naha Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, for example, in the Hadith Jabir, it says, Naha Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam an darbin fil wajhi wa an al-wasmi fil wajhi. Means not to hit and not to use the fire and burn an animal. And he said in another hadith that he passed by and he saw a donkey. He saw a donkey. قد وسم في وجهه. There's a mark on his face. And the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, لعن الله الذي وسمه. لعن الله الذي وسمه. Can you imagine that? Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used the word, may Allah take him out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whoever did this to this camel. This is a camel. He marked him on his face. And the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, لعن الله الذي وسمه. And there's another hadith on Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. She says, "Kuntu ala ba'irin sa'b, faja'altu adribahu." She was on a camel that started to go wild, a stubborn camel. Sa'b means a stubborn camel. So she started hitting the camel. So the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned to her and he said, "Alayki bil-rifq, alayki bil-rifq. Be gentle, be gentle. فإن الرفق لا يكون في شيء إلا زانه. ولا يكون في شيء ولا ينزع من شيء إلا شانه." So he ordered Aisha to use gentleness with a stubborn animal, an animal that was acting wild. But the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam still told Aisha to be gentle. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, this is amazing. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam forbid people from milking the cow for no reason, unless they're intending to either drink or store their milk, but just to milk the cow into the ground. He didn't. He said, "Wala tasurru al-ibla wal-ghanam," because you're wasting what the animal had to do a lot of effort to produce. So Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam ordered rahma while we deal with the animals and while we treat the animals. He said, "Do not use them. Do not overuse them." There was a group of Al-Ansar. They had a camel, and they were using that camel to go fetch for water. And they were using that water to water their land. But they were overworking that camel to where the camel stopped moving, became stubborn. And the Rasul ﷺ was called that, we have a camel that is soft. So the Rasul ﷺ came in and saw the camel against the wall of that garden. And the camel saw the Rasul ﷺ and came in and bowed his head to the Rasul ﷺ and spoke to the Rasul ﷺ. And the Rasul ﷺ turned to their owners and he said, "You're overkilling the animal." Yeah. Even though they're using it for their land, but that doesn't mean you overuse the animal. Rasul ﷺ also naha an al-tahrishi bayn al-bahaim. This is amazing because in today's world, the Western world, where they brag about animal rights, and many of us that come from our culture, sometimes we say, "I wish I'm treated like they treat their pets," and that is true. There's an enormous luxury treatment for the pets, especially in rich families. Their dogs, their cats, and some of them even have tigers as pets and different kinds of animals as pets. I believe, caring for pets speaks volume about the intelligence and intellect of a community and a society that sees this not as commendable. Is a society that's lacking really civilization. They're lacking a civilized mindset. And this is sad. This is truly sad because we as Muslims should carry that kind of care for the animals, especially if they are our pets. And I'll talk about that. But one of the things that the Western world still does, which Islam forbid, is to have the animals fight each other in a game, in a sporting match game, to fight each other. Like they have roosters do it, like have bulldogs do it. فنهى الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم التحريش بالبهائم. He said in the hadith, نهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من التحريش بين البهائم. The Rasul صلى الله عليه وسلم forbid that you have animals fight against each other, whether they're dogs or roosters or whatever else. They're animals. I've seen different types of animals being used as sports animals. In fact, Nahar Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to hunt an animal for sport, which the Western world still does. He said, "You are not to kill unless you are in need of food." So if there's an animal that's out there and we need for food, that's when we hunt them. But other than that, that animal should feel safe. It should not be hunted for food. It should not be hunted also for money. Like a lot of the Western world, they hunt elephants in Africa to take their ivory. That is haram. That's forbidden. In fact, among the scholars, they said that we're not even allowed to buy those things from people that want to sell them. So if someone wants to sell us an ivory and it was taken from an animal that was killed with no reason, then we're not even allowed to buy that. So Nahar Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to use the animal for what's not within its nature to be used. SubhanAllah, look at this hadith. إِيَّاكُمْ أَن تَتَّخِذُوا ظُهُورَ دَوَابِكُمْ مَنَابِرَ. Why did he say that? There was a man, he was on his camel, and he stopped in the market and started giving a speech, started talking and giving a speech while he's standing on his animal. He used his animal as a tool step. So the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, don't take your animal as a minbar. فإن الله إنما سخرها لكم لتبلغكم إلى بلد لم تكونوا بالغيه إلا بشق الأنفس. Allah Ta'ala created it as means for you to reach your destination, not to use it as a minbar. Look at the rahmah of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with that. He did not allow this man because the way he was also standing on it was hurtful. The animal was in pain. You don't stand on an animal. You ride an animal, and the way you ride it is known. So that is something in our faith. In fact, even when we do kill an animal, we still show mercy. We don't show the knife to the animal because the animal can feel, can sense. We don't slaughter one in front of the other, so we don't kill it. More than once, the Rasul said, we also sharpen our knives. He said, do not let that animal taste death more than once. إن الله كتب الإحسان على كل شيء. إن الله كتب الإحسان على كل شيء. فإذا قتلتم فأحسنوا القتل وإذا ذبحتم فأحسنوا الذبحة وليوحد أحدكم شفرته وليرح ذبيحته. So Allah Ta'ala wrote on everything perfection and kindness. So He said, even when you kill someone that deserves to be killed, you still show ihsan, you still show mercy. You don't show the animal or person that you're killing the weapon. You don't have them sit there waiting to be killed until they're dying again and again and again. So that that is not allowed. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam even said that we're not allowed to use the animals as means of tools for hunting. إنها لا تصيد صيدا ولا تتكأ عدوا ولكنها تكسر السن. So, for example, you don't take a bone of an animal and use it to kill, because that's not what that was supposed to be used for. In our deen, we're supposed to also offer the animal the right to live. The right to live. And if we're not able to offer that animal what it needs, then we have to allow it find its means. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the hadith sahih, he said, دخلت امرأة النار في هرة. A woman entered the hellfire because of a cat. لا هي سقتها وأطعمتها ولا هي تركتها تعيش في حشاش الأرض. It did not offer it food or water and did not let it go, free it, so it can find food on its own. This woman went to hell. In another narration, that this woman was known among people as being a woman of salah and qiyam, but she still went to hell. While another woman who was a prostitute, the hadith is Sahih Bukhari Muslim, she was a prostitute. That's her lifestyle, a prostitute. She was selling her body, but she saw a dog that is thirsty. She took off her shoes and went and offered that dog water. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam forgave her. There's another narration that a man was traveling and he went down a well. When he got up, he saw a dog's tongue is out because he's so thirsty. He went back down, brought water, and offered it for that dog. They both entered Jannah because what they showed. The dog prayed for him and went to Jannah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave that woman's prostitution because she offered water for that dog and saved a life of an animal. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam even said, look at this amazing, he said to the Sahaba when they're traveling, because sometimes you're traveling during a season where there's a lot of food, and sometimes you will travel during a season where there's not. So he said, إِذَا سَافَرْتُمْ فِي الْخَصْبِ فَأَعْطُوا الْإِبِلْ حَظَّهَا مِنَ الْأَرْضِ. If you're traveling during a season where the land is green, then allow the camel to eat. Give it time to eat. Don't rush it. Let it enjoy the journey. He said, وَإِذَا سَافَرْتُمْ فِي السَّنَةِ فَأَسْرِعُوا عَلَيْهَا السَّيْرِ. But if you're traveling during times of drought, then hurry. Don't take your time, because the longer you take, the animal is struggling. So get it to its destination so it can find some food to eat. So even as you're traveling, you have on your conscience the need of that animal. The need of that animal. So there's this beautiful side of our faith that we have forgotten. The side that it's not about us human beings. It's about every living species. They have the right to exist. They have the right to live. They have the right to eat. They have the right to mercy. They have the right to coexist with us. You understand? And if we don't show that, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away from us whatever mercy that's supposed to be for us. That's the bottom line. So, I can go on with this lecture today for hours, and I might even have a second session for it tomorrow. But the bottom line is, I want to remind ourselves that what we see out there Sometimes we laugh and joke about how the Western society overdoes itself in taking care of its pets. I think that's commendable. I don't see it as a negative. I see it as a compliment towards their attitude. What we would probably say is, I wish they would do that with their own kids, not that how wrong they are with their animals, how wrong they are with their own kids, and vice versa. We care for our children, but I'm from Yemen. We have dogs in the streets. We throw rocks at them, and the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam forbid that. He forbid that. He entered a garden and he saw a bird that was tied up, and then kids were taking rocks and throwing those rocks at that bird, and the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam got very angry and he cursed people. He said, La'an Allahu. He cursed people who throw rocks at animals or take them as targets. Takes them as targets. So you find us just throwing rocks at dogs and cats, and they look hungry and starving. You go to Egypt, you see the same thing. It's a sad sign of a society that's backward, a society that have no growth, and neither does it understand its history and faith. So that's not even civilized of our day, and neither does it live the moment of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam when, animals were cared for. فأسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يرحمنا برحمته وأن يوسع علينا إن شاء الله الخير كله إنه على ذلك قدير. I can take